Hello guys, this is Schmoomer here. Welcome to Schmoomers. This is the latest image called the Big Schmoo that we're releasing right now. So let's give you some info, a good tutorial, a little walkthrough here about what this image is and why this image is, and let's do it. So HAL 9000 is where you'll be dropped off after the image loads. Okay, so once you do this, you go boop right here. Now you'll notice that everything here on this menu that has a colon in front of it is a menu. Okay, so when you go here, you got all these options here. Okay, so you'll find your way through this. Don't ever push the big we pushed the button. Anyways, so your emulator tools, these are going to be things like this here. RetroArch, this is going to launch RetroArch, so if you want to change some settings in that without actually launching a video game, you can do it right there. Okay. Network tools, it's all kind of self-explanatory, dudes. So now, once you get yourself set up with the Wi-Fi, okay, when you connect with your computer to your Schmoomer's Big Schmoo, you're going to find some symbolic links that open up. Let's say you're using Windows Explorer. Okay, you're going to have various folders like your ROMs, your home directory, your configs, your unified saves folder. So these are going to be the folders that, in case you want to transfer certain settings or configurations from your previous Schmoomer stuff, you can just drag those and drop those files in the corresponding folders there. This video really isn't how to do that. I'm just letting you guys know that this is set up to just receive all your stuff, all your save games. So if you've been a previous Schmoomer user and you've made a lot of progress, let's say in Final Fantasy or whatever, you can just drop those save files where they need to be and just continue on as usual. Okay, so system tools. Now here, right when you start this thing up, this image is overclocked at 1700, or actually 1800. Okay, now you can go, I like to overclock at 2000. Okay, but I don't do that at the time of shipping because sometimes certain Raspberry Pi circuit boards just don't respond well to overclocking, and so I don't want to stick somebody with a Big Schmoo image that crashes during startup. Okay, so I'll let you guys play with that at your own leisure, risk, etc. Okay, but I find that this image actually just hauls ass, man. At 2000, you won't have a problem with really anything. And now, if you're going to play games like some of those cave shoot 'em ups, you'll want to overclock as fast as you can because there's so many things on screen at once. The game's gonna run kind of crappy unless you run it quickly. Okay, so that's where you do that. Run command, though, let's show you this. Right at startup, I have disabled some options so that while you're walking away from your system and you have people playing video games that are button mashers, they don't accidentally change emulation launch settings accidentally. So I've disabled those features. That way you should be kind of bulletproof for letting kids do what they need to. However, here's where you're going to change that. So go to run command, which is right here, right? So we'll go to HAL 9000, system tools, run command. Okay, so you launch this thing and it's going to bring you here. These first three options you will want to enable, so turn those back on if you want to be able to change the emulator that runs a specific game or change any of those settings. Okay, lastly, your CPU configuration, always leave this on performance. Okay, for example, if you want to run this thing on demand, it's supposed to throttle your CPU as it requires higher CPU, but the problem is it makes games run like poo-poo, so don't do that. Keep it on performance, just like that, and then exit there, so that'll change all that for you. Okay, and overclock, this is where, yeah, you do all that stuff. Now, when you change your overclock settings, it will force you to restart Okay, so not a big deal there. Here's where we're going to change anything visually with this. Change the theme. If you don't like the theme that I created for this image, you can download any one of Hersty's themes, which special shout out to that guy. Dwayne is the man. The entire community deserves that guy's, excuse me, that guy earns the respect that is well deserved. Okay, so yeah, definitely check out his themes right there. Overscan, splash screen. So this splash screen is the video that plays during startup, during booting. Okay, so you don't have to look at all the lines of code and blah blah blah. So I've got that right there for you. Now, Raspberry config. So this is all your Raspberry Pi related configuration changes, not RetroPie. This is the Raspberry Pi. So RetroPie startup, that'll take you there. The background music player that I use on this build, this is where you'll change settings for that, such as volume, whether or not it fades in or out. Although that feature is not enabled on this build for a reason. In future releases of Schmoomer's stuff, that'll be re-enabled, but for this, it argues with Playbox, something to do with Playbox. I don't know all the ins and outs of Playbox. I am very grateful for the use of Playbox by 2Play. He was generous enough to give me a blank version of it so that I could build a Schmoomer product on top of it. So there's a lot of features in Playbox that I don't really play with too much because, again, I'm building an image on top of Playbox. This is not a Playbox build per se, okay? So I definitely recommend, if you're curious about those features, you can find him on his own Discord server. He's got a YouTube channel, a lot of really great tutorials, and he does a tremendous job at moving the retro gaming community forward. He's always working on something, and so definitely check out his build. He's got his own images out there that are that use all of the features that he's created for his builds. I just don't use a lot of those features because to me it's about the gaming, not necessarily all the nuance and tweaking that you can do. Okay, so definitely check him out. But okay, so speaking about Playbox, there is his toolkit. So if you want, take a look at the stuff here. I will tell you though that even though most of the stuff is benign, in other words, you won't really hurt your Schmoomer's image, I will strongly recommend that you do not update your Playbox. There's an option in here that says that you can update your Playbox. Well, what that will do is it will undo all the changes that I have made to create a Schmoomer build, and it will reload everything that is Playbox. Okay, so basically you're trying to convert this Schmoomer build back to a Playbox. Well, if you're going to do that, just download his image. His image is absolutely nothing short of amazing. Okay, so I would recommend you don't do that. Anyways, but there are a lot of really cool features and tools inside this toolkit you should take a look at. But again, it's all use at your own risk. This thing right here, system info, this is just awesome. So when you click on this thing, it's going to give you a view of what your system is. It's going to tell you what your overclock is set at. It's going to tell you what your disk usage is. It'll even give you the weather. So that's a pretty cool thing right there. So definitely use that. I do, especially while I'm building, because I want to figure out where I'm at space-wise and blah blah blah. Okay. So that's your configurations menu. Little bit about the way that I have this thing set up. We have the systems tabs. All these menu cards are first. Okay, so it's going to start off with your arcades, right? So you have regular arcades, the Thomas Wave and Naomi and Neo Geo. Neo Geo CD, these are kind of like our transition pieces, since these are also coin-op in a way. And then we go from left to the right in all the consoles. So you'll find that the consoles graduate to the next console in order, right? So you have Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, etc., right? And that's going to happen for all these systems here, okay? Every one of these games that are on this build work, okay? So they've already been tested. You shouldn't really run across any duds in this build. That's not to say they're not there, because yeah, there's 6,641 games in here. It's going to happen. So anyways, They all use RetroArch cores except for Dreamcast. I have it using Redream, an awesome emulator, and so all these games here are going to use Redream. So any of your RetroArch controls won't be imported into this. You'll have to set that up separately, okay? There's plenty of documentation online how to do that. So once you get your controller set up, you will have the ability to use it properly. That'll only take a half a second. The other emulator that does that as well is the PlayStation Portable, okay? So really those are the only two that you, for example, when you hit like the select and start, won't exit you. It'll just take you to the actual emulator menu, and then you just scroll over to where it says exit, and then you can get out that way, okay? So, and then same thing, you'll have to set up your controller right there. I already have the controls set up for an Xbox style controller, so there's a good chance you won't have to do any controller setup if you're using one of those style controllers, okay? So that's a little quick note there. Now we move into the handheld genre here. So you'll find those in this next area, and then we go to the computer style stuff. So we got the Amiga, the MS-DOS, OpenBore. This right here, Steam. So now we have the Steam link active. It only takes a half a second to get it configured properly. So if you have your bunch of your great PC games loaded up on Steam on your computer, you can stream that directly to your Schmoomer Big Schmoo and play it on your TV out on the couch. It's awesome. It seriously is absolutely sick. You're gonna want to have outstanding bandwidth in your house through Wi-Fi to be able to stream it accurately to the Pi, or you just hardwire it. It takes really zero effort to get that set up properly, and a lot of the guys in our community have already play tested this and verified that it works perfect, and you're gonna love this. It's totally awesome. So that's new on this build. Now the collections, you will find they are all active right now, okay? Now if you don't want to have all these things active, all you do is you hit start on your controller, go to game collection settings, hit the button, A button, and where it says custom game collections, 66 of them are active right now. Okay, that's all of them, right? You can turn them off. You don't want to look at any of them, just turn them off. Keep the only the ones that you want on. So if you just want to have, let's say, fighters and basketball games, so just do that, right? So, but I keep them all on right out of the starting gate, because it really helps you get acquainted with what games we have on the build without having to scroll through endless systems just looking for random titles. So if you like Alien games, they're all here, okay? So this will tell you what's on what system, and it'll allow you to launch the game directly from that, okay? And so here we have this, right? So if you want to create some new collections, or maybe we're going to add a game to the collections, right? Let's say Cult Classics. Now we've put a couple games in here right now that we felt are worthy of that status, but of course there's more. For example, we are going to do this. I think Shadow Man is an excellent game. It's definitely a cult classic. It was never super popular mainstream wise, but it's a great game, and so let's show you how to do that. So that particular game, even though it's available on Nintendo 64, it plays way better from this one here. So we go down here. I'm going to use the right bumper to scroll quickly. Shadow Man, this one right there. Cool. So whatever category you want to add games into, in this case it's going to be the Cult Classics. So we are going to just go here, okay? You hit the A button to enter this screen. Now you're going to hit select and go down. The select button takes you here, okay? Add remove games to this collection. So now I hit the button. So now I'm in editing mode, okay? Now take yourself back over to the Dreamcast or whatever system that you want to add a game to the collection to. Here it is. Whoopsie. And I hit the Y button, just like you're going to add a regular favorite, right? Now when I hit the Y, it's just going to add that to that. When I'm done adding it, I can hit the select button again, and I can go to finish editing the cult collection. That's it. It's done. Okay? So once you're done adding that stuff, I always recommend that you hit start and go to quit. Restart emulation station. Don't quit. Don't shut down. Don't restart the system. Restart emulation station. What this does is it successfully writes that information into the collection file. So let's say you just added 45 games to your cult collections. It took you an hour and a half to go through and put all your cool games or into your own favorites. Yeah, and then you shut the thing off, and then what happens? What happens later when you turn the thing back on? You're like, wait a minute, where are all of my games that I put in there? Well, it didn't save it. So yeah, that's a rough lesson to learn. Even though that you can change some settings in Emulation Station that oh, that coffee's good. You can change some settings in there that supposedly will allow it to update and write the file instantly at the time of editing. But you know what? I'm old school. I always do things the way that I know that works without a doubt, especially when you invest a lot of time going through all these games to make sure that the games are been put in the proper spot and that. So that's what you do. So anytime you're done editing a collection, putting games in and out, just go and you hit the start button and quit and restart Emulation Station, and then it will be there. So now if we go here to Cult Classics, we should find that Shadow Man is now there. Shadow Man. Bam. Such a good game, man. Set aside some time though to play this game because yeah, it's a long one. Anyways, okay, so carrying on. Here's another one of those things where we have this collection that's for, let's say, dads, right? If I create game collection settings, right, you can go to create new custom collection from the theme. So this is going to utilize one of the menu cards that I have created in this theme that I made, okay? So you can go here. Let's say I want to create a new category of all the two-player games, and you want to go through the entire build and populate every game that's a two-player game. That will allow you to couch play a video game with your buddies, and find those games easily without having to scroll this crazy list. I wonder how many players does it have or not. Same thing with 4-player. As far as making favorites, when you select a game that you want to put in your favorites folder, and you do that through the regular traditional emulation station method by pressing Y, okay? Here's what this does. It actually changes and adds information into the game list XML file. It actually changes that actual file. So in other words, it doesn't create a separate collection XML like I have on this. Okay, here's the problem with that. The way these collections work is each one of these collections that you see, whether it's Double Dragon or Donkey Kong or Cult Classics, basically is a file on its own, and it's just a gigantic list of all the games and where the path is. So all it is a list of paths that point to the actual game. Well, that's really cool because now that information is transferable from build to build to build, right? But if you did it the old-fashioned way, the regular emulation station way, what it does, it actually writes that info into the XML file, which isn't useful because now I can't transfer any of those favorites to another build, which is not convenient. Okay, so what I've done is I've created, and you don't see it on this list because it's already active on the build. There's a dad, a daughter, a mom, and a son. So you can use these for everybody in the family. If everybody's got their own favorites, they can add those games there. and it will write those favorites to their own file, transferable to the next Schmoomer's build, to the next Schmoomer's build, or back to a previous build. If you don't like the Big Schmoo, you can take that. You can take this collection, ES collections folder, and you can just copy them over to the other build, and bang, they'll work right out of the starting gate. Okay, provided that the theme is there and it will accept that. Okay, so this faves, okay, is different than the emulation station favorites. Okay, this is its own transferable favorites folder, so that's why I put that there. Okay, and so anyways, enough about all that. You get the idea, right? Okay, if you don't, not my problem. All right, let's back up here. Alrighty, so now we're gonna just have all these things in here. You got plenty of stuff to choose from. Okay, and I've done my best to make sure that all these categories have been populated properly. This is a good folder right here, Schmoomer's Bites. This is another favorites collection that I've put together. If you're new to retro gaming, this is kind of like a 470 game list of favorites. So these are all pretty cool games. Yeah, so you play any one of these games, you're likely to have a good time with it without having to scroll through endless categories and all this. Okay, so that's the build. Okay, now here's new. Okay, we've added this. This is basically Kodi. Okay, but I wanted to have a movie theater. What I wanted to have, the original vision was to create the ultimate retro gaming experience by not only giving you all the retro video games from a specific era, but also the movies too that we grew up with. And so that's what this is. Now, when you launch this, you just hit the A button. It'll take you into the Schmoomer's Theater, Kodi, essentially. Okay. This coffee's delicious, by the way. If you're not a coffee drinker, you should be. Okay. So it loads Kodi. Only takes a moment. And here we have it. Now, when you're in Kodi, if you use your controller and you use the right analog stick and you click it, this is what you have. Okay, this is how you're going to exit Kodi and back to emulation station. If you choose to power the system off, it will actually do that. It'll shut the whole thing down for you. Okay, same thing with reboot. Okay, so you want to go back to gaming, just use exit. Okay. If you go to settings here, this is where you will find the ability to add other categories. So for example, interface. If I want to go here to interface, and you're going to go to the skin, right? I want to configure the skin and the main menu, right? When you go to main menu, you can choose here on this side what categories you want to have. So for example, on this build of mine, I have it set up with movies and TV shows. Nothing else I'm going to ever have. I don't have a big picture show. I got all this stuff turned off. So that's how you do that. On your Big Schmoo, when you download this image, TV shows is going to be turned off, but that's where you're going to turn that thing on. Okay. I've already loaded it so that the background image is the proper background image. Now, the bummer here is that my build is going to be a little bit different than yours because I have a bunch of the movies that I own on here. Okay, I've hit the back button, by the way, to get myself back to here. TV shows. On my build, these are all the movies that I feel are perfect for the retro gaming era. There's a couple that I've put in this collection that are not retro, but I just think they fit the vibe, or maybe I just like the movie anyways. But so this is my version of it. Huge Aliens fan, so of course all of them are there. But like these are all like the old retro movies that we grew up with. A lot of great movies here. So if you need this, if you're curious as to what movies I would recommend to put them on your own Big Schmoo and create your retro movie gaming time machine, we do have a complete list here. Most of these movies have been updated on the Schmoomer's Internet Movie Database, but we will get that updated here soon to have all of these flicks on here for you. Okay, but again, I can't play any of these movies due to MPAA restrictions. I don't want to get in any trouble. So that's originally I would have loved to be able to give all this stuff to you guys, but that's a big no-no. So I don't have that. Okay. Now we do have Jellyfin installed on the build. So if you have a server that you want to connect your movies to, if you've created a Plex or whatever, we'll have information at the Discord that will help you guys know how to get that set up. And basically, well, like for example here, if I go here to TV shows, right, I don't have that actually on the build, but all these are actually set up with it's connected to my other computer, and it literally just streams the stuff right to the build. Okay, because I just there's only so much room on an SSD, so these are actually off-site, whereas the movies are on the build. So a lot of cool stuff that you can do with Kodi here. So let's get out of this. I'm not going to bore you with more movies. Let's go like this, exit. It just takes you right out. Okay. There we go. Got our movie theater guys that they're all wearing the hazmat suits because of COVID. I felt it was kind of fitting given what's going on in the world today. So now let's show you another cool thing. So if you're using the controller that I have, we'll load up this game, whatever. Somebody excuse me, was mentioning that all the volume between background music and the volume between some of these games is rather inconsistent. Well, there's really no way to set the levels on that properly. It's not like I can run every audio stream through a compressor and have things done. Okay, so basically here you can hit the select button and the up arrow. See how it just changed the volume on that? I can go back down to there. So select an up and down on the D-pad will change the volume right there. So if you load up a game and it's like, holy smokes, that thing is loud. Well, that's where you adjust it right there. You don't have to go into the RetroArch settings or nothing like that. So if you want to go into RetroArch, it's select an X. Okay, and then same thing, select an X will then back you out of that. I do have a different video on the YouTube channel that teaches you the ins and outs of doing that, so that's not this video. To escape out of the game, you hit select and start twice. The start button will be hit twice, so hold select and hit start twice, and that gets you out of there. I activated the start twice thing, that way you don't accidentally boot yourself out of the game accidentally. The other thing I will tell you, and I haven't found a way to turn this off, but if you hit select and the B button, it will reset the console. Well, that's a bummer sometimes, because you'll be 2/3 into a cool button masher and you wanted to add another coin, like when you're doing arcade games, you want to add more coins to keep playing. Well, sometimes if you're hitting select and you're still button mashing at the same time, boom, it blinks the system and restarts it. Yeah, that's always a lot of fun, so don't make that mistake there. I will tell you guys, a lot of work went into this. This whole theme is all me. Had it not been for Dwayne Hurst and his YouTube series on how to make your own YouTube theme, this theme here probably would not have happened. I did create all these background launching videos. I do a lot graphically, but I felt that this was the next evolution to give you a Schmoomer's complete product, and so every single theme here was made by me. You'll notice in the consoles that the background image behind this menu card, so that image that you see behind the Sega CD card, is actually the launching graphic when you start a game. So I thought that was a cool way to keep things, keep the continuity of that stuff there. The thing about this build too, I removed a few things. I got rid of Daphne. I know that's gonna ruffle some feathers out there, but I really feel that the quality of the Daphne games is not matched by the quality of the nostalgia factor. So the nostalgia of the game is way greater than the actual quality of the game, and what that does is when you play this game, it takes away from the overall quality of the build. And so if you want Daphne, the directory and all that's completely still set up. If you've had the Daphne games that maybe you love Daphne, maybe you're that person, you can literally just copy over stuff from your previous build into that folder and it will play. I've got the menu card is still there, the launching graphics are all still there, so that'll still work. But I just removed them from this build because I just think that it took away from the overall quality and feel for the whole build. I also turned off the ports based on feedback from my community here. No one was really playing the ports anyway, so I just turned them off. They only took up 8 gigs, so rather than delete them all outright, I just added .off to the folder name, and Emulation Station doesn't see it when you do that, so I did that. I also removed the Solaris category. Nobody was playing those games either, so it's just a way for me to do a little bit of housekeeping. I did add a couple games into this build here. There's maybe 4 or 5 that we added in this one, and I removed a handful of games too for various reasons. Maybe they weren't emulating properly, or maybe I felt that it just kind of didn't fit the feel of the build. So that's it. This is the Big Schmoo. I hope you guys love this thing. If you don't, whatever. I build these things because I think retro video gaming is part of my soul, and there's a lot of great builders out there. My hat's off to anyone who has the courage and the time and the drive to put together an image, especially those people that have the courage, the drive, and the effort to release it to the public, So this stuff is not easy. It's not super hard, but it takes a lot of time, and it takes it takes what it takes. And so again, I'd like to thank 2Play, Dwayne Hurst, James Tolme. I'd like to thank Sick Alpha and Gronod and Dirty and JR41 and all the guys in Last Rogue, all these dudes. I just can't keep rambling on, but everybody that's in my Discord server that has been a contributor, really, I think this image wouldn't be possible had it not been for all you guys and all your devotion and hard work and the donations that you guys have been making are so greatly appreciated. All that money there's not a lot of it, but it is spent towards server rentals and cloud storage and various things that we need to do. Like for example, all the 3D graphics that are generated and the softwares that I use to render all that stuff. Okay, well those are monthly subscriptions. So I mean, even though that I'm giving you guys this image for free, it is not free to do this stuff. But again, no one is ever obligated to donate for the cause. But if you feel appreciative that day and you want to send out a cup of coffee, then feel free to do so. Definitely join our Discord, Schmoomer's Kitchen on Discord, because it's like having 24-hour tech support, but it's also like having your own private community. We've got all kinds of channels of discussion. It's a cool little hangout, man. It really is an awesome. It's like the clubhouse, right? So I'll get out of here. I think 34 minutes is long enough for a video like this, but I hope this gave you some insight as to what this build is and why this build is. And love you guys. Game on. Peace.